Hello there. Today we're going to tie the Big Red. I'm sure most of you have heard of the fly. It's been devastatingly effective over the last few seasons. This is a variation of it. I can't claim to know what the original dressing even is, but I was explained how to tie it, and this is how I tie it, and it's worked really effectively for me, so I'm going to just stick with that. First thing I'm going to do is I'm using a Camazan B175, not a traditional dry fly, but this fly is so buoyant that the hook makes no difference really. I'm using Danville's red thread, purely because it's to hand. You can use uni thread in 8, works just as well in red. This is a nice bright tying thread though. I really like it. First thing I'm going to do is get the thread onto the shank of the hook, and I'm going to use some arrow wing, something probably more used to using with the river flies. But I'm going to take a bit of arrow wing, I'm going to bring it up under the hook like so, and I'm just going to crisscross nylon, and I'm doing this about quarter of an inch back from the eye of the hook. And I'm also going to, now that I've got that in place, this is where a set of gallows would really help, but just one or two turns, just like so, to make a post. So we've got that there. I've got quite a lot going on up the top here, but don't worry about that. I'm going to significantly reduce that material. Now, next thing then is a little layer of thread. Don't be overly worried about touching turns. It's nice to have, but we're going to put some nice dubbing over the top of that, so it's not to worry about. I'm going to come all the way back as far as I dare before it gets to the end of the bend of the hook, sorry. So slightly past the bar, not much. The wire I'm using is a copper wire. It's very thin, very light, and it's quite a bright copper. So I'm going to catch that in. A couple of turns, and I'm not going to worry about, I'll just bend that so you can see it. This bit at the bottom here I'm not going to worry about. I'm just going to push it up there. I'll catch that in on the way back. The dubbing I'm going to use it's a blend of natural and synthetic, already done for me. Hunter's dubbing. I've had this in my box for ages, and I just got it out one day to tie these because it was to hand, and it worked really well, so I've used it ever since. So get plenty of dubbing onto the hook. You can blend your own dubbins, of course, and I still do quite a lot of them, but there's so much available now which saves you time and effort that why bother, unless you're after something very specific and unique, and you can use these that you can buy readily done. I've put on a fair bit, not too much, and I'm just going to start bringing that round and up. I think the Big Red originally came from the Bristol water lads down on Chew. I wouldn't bet my life on it. I'm sure somebody else has got claim over it at some point. So I've brought that all the way up to my post area, and what I'm going to do now is just bring my rib, sorry, the opposite way round, just to keep the dubbing in check. Again, it will sink into it, so don't be overly worried. The post can be a bit hard to work around, but you'll see later why it had to be tied in the way it was. Now I'm just going to catch my rib at the back there because that's where it's come, once that's in place, just keep my thread slightly tight, and I've taken my rib away. Now for the wing of this fly, I've got a little strand here, soft hen hackle, and I'm going to catch that in at the tip. Just move everything to the back. Now before I do anything else, I'm going to just add a little bit more dubbing to the thread, tiniest bit, which will aid me in finishing the fly off. I've got my feather here. Now I've got the shiny side, or the side that used to be on the bird facing outwards when it was alive, facing down. This just aids with the flotation of the fly. And I'm just running that round now, splaying out the feathers. Now I used to strip the back off and then work it round. Excuse me, that's going a bit wrong. Just needs to be brought back under control there. And I've gone quite high up my post with this. Remember, you want to get quite a few fibres in because it's supporting, or it's going to support, quite a bit of weight. So once I've got what I'm happy with round, I'm going to trap the feather in. Once you've got one turn in and you're holding your thread taut still, use your thumb and forefinger just to bring everything back. Then you can catch in like so, making sure your thread ends up at the front of the eye. Now that can just be snapped off now. It's reluctant to go, and even after 3 attempts there's still a bit poking out. I'm going to take that away with some snips. Now it's at this point where I now bring all the post forward. So the post's coming forward, everything else is being swept to the rear of the fly. And I'm now going to just catch that in, like so. A couple of turns, and I'm just going to use my thumb to press down on the top of that post. Like so. And while I'm here, I'm just going to take a large chunk of that away. It'll make it easier for me to get my couple of half hitches in, which is how I'm going to finish the fly off. So I've got it in. Don't want to catch, try not to catch any of your fibres, and it's difficult because there's, you've got your wing fibres, your arrow wing, it's all going on. It's very difficult not to catch some in there, and I think I have caught some bits and bobs of the arrow wing. So I'm going to trim that away, and just to finish off, I'm going to add the tiniest drop of varnish. So I've dipped it into my hard as nails, and I just want to touch on the thread where I've done the half hitch, because I don't want that coming out and spoiling the fly. I suppose if you used a wet finish tool it would be much more secure, but I've still not mastered that. This is obviously far too long at the front here, so I'm going to trim that, and I think probably a couple of 1/8 of an inch will see it right. And you've got this sort of breather out the front. Now again, I'm just forcing it down with my thumb and getting the wing. I'm going to use my dubbing brush to come in on the body of the fly. Give it a right good rust up. These fibres, when they've been brushed out like this, you put some gink on, it really will sit up in the water. Now, the whole reason for tying, why I tie the Big Red like this, is I fully expect it to sit in the film, and it will sit something like this. So you can imagine you've got all these feathers ganked up, and because it's a Camazan B175, it's a fairly meaty hook. This will sink into the surface film and it will sit on the water at that level, and fish just devour it. It's phenomenal how many fish this fly will take for you. I hope it's given you some ideas for yourself. Happy tying. Thanks for watching.